Well, hello there, friends and family. Welcome to my show, Bob Being Bob. This is episode 15, and the title of this episode is going to be called Why I Will Never Forget. And everybody has a story about where they were or what they were doing on September 11th, 2001, and this show is going to be my story. Before I get started, there was a girl who started on the same day as me at a firm in New York City on a trading desk named Nalka Kushitani. She sat right next to me, and she was one of those that perished in the attacks. And, you know, if you look online for her, she doesn't have much fanfare at all under any of the memorial sites. And I just want Nalka to know that I will never ever forget you, Nalka. You were such a sweetheart. She sat right to the right of me, and she would always say, "Oh, we started on the same day. We started on the same day. We have so much in common." She was really, really a sweetie. And shortly before the incident, she had left the firm I was working for and took a job in the World Trade Center. So just want to give a shout out to Nalka, especially since I have a photo of her somewhere, which I'm going to find in the next coming weeks so that I can post on these sites. There's not even a photo of her there. So anyway, that's Nalka Kushitani, and I'll put her name at the bottom. A lot of people ask me through hearing from other family members or friends that I had some involvement. They know bits and pieces of the story. And I thought instead of giving them the whole story, which is a long one and it's exhausting for anybody to listen to, especially standing in like the church quad, you know, trying to give one of the pastors, you know, the whole story, I thought I'd do a show on it and I'd actually read an email that I wrote the next day. And this has kept me as close to the facts as possible, because after years and years and years, you forget, you add things in, you take things out. So here is an email that I wrote to my family once I got back from my experience with 9/11. I was set to close on a piece of property in Jersey City, one stop from the World Trade Center. 9 a.m. was the closing time. So had I not got delayed, and I don't remember exactly why I got delayed, had I not gotten delayed, I would have probably been in the towers as they came down, because that would have put me right there, right at the time when the attack happened. So I feel grateful that for whatever reason I was delayed on my trading desk. The firm I worked for, they knew that I was into rescue and that I had trained an awful lot for almost exactly something like this. So they released me immediately after the first plane hit, and I charged down there, stopped at my place on the way, picked up my gear. I had a uniform with an ID, with a backpack, with all kinds of survival gear, water, blankets, a flashlight, glow sticks, etc., etc. And the one thing that I'm disappointed in myself for not bringing with me was a camera. I didn't have a camera, and that really would have been I would have been able to really chronicle that day, or at least my day. But it was a harrowing day for me. I got down there. The towers came down shortly after I got there, or as I was coming in. I was able to help some people, and then I joined a medical emergency response vehicle. But here's the email I wrote to family, and this is what I did on 9/11. Dear family, it has been a horrific day for my city, New York City. Fortunately, I'm located north of Center Mass Strike area. The smoke over New York City yesterday was immense. The city, New York City, has been crippled in a big way. I live on 28th and Lexington, just across from the National Guard Armory. There's a lot of activity around the Army, but the streets elsewhere are eerily bare. Yesterday, just after the second plane hit the World Trade Center, I dispatched as a representative of the American Red Cross for a first response effort. On my way to the scene, I came upon a number of victims with shock and internal impact injuries. I was able to assist a few, basically giving first aid and assisting police. I then moved very close to the scene and was picked up by what is called a MERV, which is a medical emergency response vehicle. It's basically a school bus outfitted as a hospital. And we came upon Jacob Javits Center, where they were having a surgeons convention. We took some surgeons surgeons on board from there, and headed towards the World Trade Center as fast as we could go. We were given tags at first, which is common, to place on the victims, identifying their extent of their injuries for second tier rescue. When they come in, it's green, yellow, red, and black, of course. As we headed down West Street Highway, the scene was grisly from people jumping from windows. At this point, we were turned back by command because the scene was still extremely unstable. We moved back and assisted in setting up an emergency triage hospital 2 blocks outside of the perimeter, just north of World Trade Center Building Number 7. It was the center of all the relief activity. The hospital and morgue was set up, and we were broken into search and rescue teams. We then began training for what was expected soon thereafter. Emergency vehicles from all over the surrounding states began to show up. At this point, all people not involved in the rescue effort were cleared from the area. We spent a good part of the day training, and nobody emerged from the wreckage. Around 4-ish, I'm guessing, they decided to make a search and rescue attempt. I again boarded the MERV unit, accompanied by 2 ladder companies, an engine company, with a crew of hazmat police marching with heavy gear directly in front of us. We slowly moved again towards the scene. The 2 ladders were in front of us about 50 feet apart, and the police marching directly in front of our bus. We slowly crept down Hudson Street towards the scene. We noticed the police in front of us look up, turn, and begin running behind us. We heard a large cracking noise and immediately closed the doors and the windows and hit the floor. A loud boom came next, and our vehicle was covered with debris. 7 World Trade Center had come down right in front of us. We laid on the floor for a few seconds and then got to our feet to see a pile of rubble directly in front of us. The bus was damaged with a few windows shattered. We threw it in reverse and as best we could backed to triage number 1 area. We got back, everybody was either under cars or in the Smith Barney Travelers building, hiding under the main escalators. There was soot and debris everywhere. The firemen I was with began to break out in tears knowing that their unit directly in front of us had perished. We resecured the area and again waited for victims. I write tears. Hours passed and no one arrived. They selected our team as well as 2 others to do a forward observation. We again, this time on foot, because it was the safest, took a pre-selected route towards the wreckage. On our approach, we saw hundreds of firemen sitting and waiting around. We made a quick stop in a makeshift hospital in Marymount High School and found no one but medical personnel. We arrived close to the perimeter and the site was something that cannot be explained in words. Mass destruction 50 feet high. We stayed for a short period and headed back to our triage. After a few more hours, we had a meeting and we were told that it doesn't look like they're going to use our triage or any of the triages for that matter because few survivors were emerging. I was driven home late at night by a couple of NYPD detectives and the ride home to my house at 28th and Lexington was eerie. Not one car, no people, stores closed up. I've never seen the streets of New York City so bare. I am physically, mentally, and emotionally drained. The streets this morning are almost as quiet except for sirens every so often. I went to the store and shelves are beginning to come bare. With all the tunnels and bridges closed, no supplies are getting in. My office is closed today and will be until the financial markets reopen. Phone lines are log jammed and the looks on people's face is disheartening. If you need to reach me, Verizon has added capacity. I can be reached on my cell phone. This has been a very hard couple of days for New Yorkers, and I ask that you say a prayer for those that are dying slowly in the wreckage. I have not returned to the scene because there are more medical professionals than the city knows what to do with. I will be heading to give blood once the long lines subside. This city will never be the same. Love and prayers, Bob. And so there you have it. That was my day, and pretty close to home. And this is why I will never forget what happened on that day and all my friends that perished. And that's why you see me posting the military tributes all the time and that sort of thing, because it really did hit rather close to home with me being down there right as the towers were coming down. So that's it. That's my story. Thanks for listening to Bob Being Bob, Why I Will Never Forget, and we'll see you real soon.